It's being touted as one of the mother of all reforms, and as we try to price in whether it's good or bad for the economy, the business, the markets, who better than the one and only voice that India Inc. and Dalal Street perhaps listen to, the one and only voice that matters on a day like today, Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala.
That's right, Aisha. In fact, on a day like this, the most important view on India comes in from Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala exclusively on ET now. When it comes to a historic event, trust me, his word is the final word. Mr. Jhunjhunwala, thanks very much, sir, for taking out the time.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for glowing words. I hope I live up to that.
You always do.
Sir, revolutionary reform, the biggest since liberalization in 1991. What do you think GST implementation would do for India's perception?
I mean, let's not be bothered about India's perception. Let's be bothered about the reality. See, I think the effect of GST is going to be far deeper than tax itself. Because first, it will lead to digitization. Anybody who has a business whose turnover is more than 20 lakhs in India will have to, digitalize their business. And I think that's going to bring in tremendous efficiency in the way we work. Second thing is, it's going to lead to big logistical gains. Right, because companies had to maintain warehouses in each state because they did not want to pay the central sales tax, and lorries were stopped in lots of places. Each state they entered, each city they entered. Thirdly, I think overall they have kept rates which are not going to lead to any increase in any. Overall, I think there is going to be some reduction in taxes, not some increase. Some items there may be an increase, some items there may be a decrease. And also we will become, today I know that if I go to a 5-star hotel and I have dinner, I'm going to pay 18% tax. Whether I pay it in Bombay or I pay it in Delhi. Earlier I never knew, somewhere the tax was 24%, somewhere it was 21%, and they had 5 kinds of taxes. So I think, and it's going to make, and they will have the digitalized records of every, if you press Rakesh Jhunjhunwala in their system, every purchase that I have made will come up.
So no scanning of the bills anymore on how much tax comes into the
bill
of the restaurant.
Therefore, this cross purposes.
Yes.
If a person does a lot of shopping and is not paying taxes, it will be no. So I think it will lead to much greater tax compliance. So I will say efficiency in work, ease in work, tax compliance, digitization. I think it's going to, see, people are going to cry, it's difficult. See, everybody likes the status quo. Every reform or every change is invited with wrath. Even 91, people said what will happen, and you thought of it that they reduced the duty on steel from 140% to 10%.
Yeah.
So people thought Tata Steel will close down forever. That doesn't happen. So I think it's a very, very welcome. Only I feel sorry that it took. I think Mr. Vajpayee was the first mover for having in his term, I think 2003.
Yes.
As a country, we should wonder why it took 15 years to pass and implement a law which we all felt we need. Every political party essentially supported it.
But better late than never, sir.
Yeah, I was just.
No, I'm not saying better late than never. Absolutely right. But I'm saying, as a country, as a society, as a democracy, we should examine why this reform took 15 years. Okay. I mean, other important reforms also should come out much faster. And 15 years is a long period, 1.5 decades.
So the ceiling took 10 years in the making. This is still a earth-changing reform.
No, but we live in a dynamic world. If you got to invite a lot of capital, if you want to do ease of business, we cannot afford change at such a slow pace.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming any individual. I'm not blaming any politician. I'm blaming us as a society. That why we as a society took 15 years to implement this. We must learn from this, and we must ensure that other measures which are needed are able to be pushed through much faster.
Absolutely. Let's talk about markets. Now, I know we were before the show talking about this entire hype around GST implementation. Markets also somewhat seem to be getting in a bit of a pause mode of late. There's a lot of chaos in the market. What will be the earnings impact? Inflation will go up. Do you think these concerns are valid concerns, or is it all just noise right now?
See, ma'am, why a a market acts the way it does and the way a woman acts, why she does. Very difficult to fathom it.
So there are two here. Be careful about what you say.
Yes, let the market go from 7,800 to 9,700. It's been a flawless rise of 6 months. So, if market pauses here and doesn't lose much, and, I think we are trying to find too many reasons into the market's, pause. Market has paused really, nothing else has happened, right? And people are very apprehensive, is what I feel. So, what about inflation? India inflation is 2.5%. It's below RBI expectation.
Yeah.
We are sitting on a good monsoon. We are sitting on low oil prices. I don't know where inflation is going to come from. So I don't know. They say markets climb a wall of worry. When I see so much worry around, I feel refreshed.
So maybe the concern on inflation is that those tax benefits will not be passed on to the consumer. So in the interim,
No, but the tax, ma'am, we live in a competitive society. If there are 5 manufacturers and 2 pass it on, the 3 will also have to pass
Makes
it on.
sense,
Right?
yeah.
And the question is, I don't agree. What do you mean tax? I am giving an all-inclusive price to the customer with tax. If I was slated for a price increase in June, right, and the tax has come down, I don't take the price increase. So I can, I don't agree with the government that you can determine the price by the tax. Tax is one of the elements of price, right? So therefore, everybody, it's a competitive situation. Every industry will decide whether they're able to pass it on. And in a situation where there is no inflation, where there is spare capacity, everybody wants volumes. So I don't think this anti-profiteering is going to lead to anything.
Oh, okay.
So that's that on inflation and the GST module. What about the earnings impact? 2 to 3 quarters? How many quarters? Does it even matter? Because like you said, the market is pausing for its own reasons.
Just like I felt at the time of demonetization, I said repeatedly, are you going to stop eating? Are you going to stop watching movies? Are you going to stop going to the restaurant? Are people going to stop buying cars? So there may be a very transitory effect. See, for the customer, nothing has changed, right? Except some kind of apprehension, prices will go up, prices will go down, nobody knows really.
Absolutely.
Right? So I don't understand why demand. You tell me one reason why demand should be affected.
Actually, there are more concerns on supply challenges in the interim. The supply as manufacturers adjust to the new over the period of July.
But they have been given. I know of companies who have planned out that some are announcing dispatches in June, some are holding back their dispatches. From the consumption point of view, you look at the consumer. How is he affected?
If things become expensive, you'll go for the cheaper models. Simple as that.
But what is going to be expensive and what's not going to be expensive, who knows?
Largely, our rates are going to be the same.
Right? In some items, and see the real rates. I know in certain items, I won't quote the items, where the rate of tax have increased, but the effective tax rate has decreased.
Yeah.
Because the input credits are greater than the increase in the rate.
Yeah, and that needs to be brought out even more, that adjusting for the input tax credit, actually the numbers are quite rational.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And every industry can price itself, at whatever price they want.
Yeah.
And I also don't think that the unorganized sector is going to be hit as badly as people think. Because you think, say, there is 10%, 12% VAT on pipes. Right? Now, we feel that the unorganized fellow is not paying any VAT and therefore he is avoiding the entire 12%. But the matter of the fact is that 80% of his cost is plastic, on which he gets a VAT. He gets the input credit. So actually what he's evading is 2.4%. So when people tell you that there is 12% tax they're evading, don't believe it. Because that is without the input credit. Even if the small SME person, if he starts paying tax, he'll also get the input credit.
That's the CA Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. He's done all his math and numbers.
Aisha, this is a very interesting point that you raised, sir, because so far the consumption, and Aisha and I have been talking about this every single day on the channel, that a large perception is that with GST coming in, the organized sector will get their much awaited opportunity of getting into the unorganized sector and expanding there.
See, there are two things. Also, earlier the taxes that were being avoided or evaded, right? They were pure evasion, there was avoidance. It's not that the benefit of that was coming to the manufacturer. It was being passed on to the consumer, partly. Right? So, partly the prices of the unorganized sector will also have to rise. But it's not that there was a 12% excise duty and the organized was paying it, so the unorganized by not paying at a 12% advantage. Today also if he pays, he has a 3% difference. Maybe 3, maybe 2, maybe 4. So all this hype that they're going to get 6 big benefits and all. And it's going to let a lot of people come into the income tax
bracket.
Tax to
Yes.
GDP will definitely go up.
that is
Good for the government. Yeah. So now let's talk about the market impact of this. What sectors do you think would benefit most from the GST implementation? You talked about digitization. You've talked about logistics as a space. The problem is that consumption in logistics already has run up so much. As investors, people only want to see where is the opportunity, what can I buy right now?
I'm not talking to logistic companies. I'm not talking consumption companies. What I'm saying is that movement of goods throughout India for every manufacturer
Would be freer, yeah.
right? And consumption, I don't know why it should have an effect. See what changes for the consumer.
Yeah.
Today, if I go buy a pen, right, even if I don't take a bill, he charges me excise. No, I take a bill, he's going to charge me tax. What difference does it make to me? To the consumer, nothing has changed, right? It's only in the supply chain.
Yeah.
So I don't see why this hype, and initially there is going to be difficulty. Whenever any change comes, we can't adjust to it. I remember 91, steel will close down, everything in India will close down. It led to being a more efficient India.
True.
So I think the benefits for us as a society and as a country, it will lead to more morality, more forced morality and willingness to pay taxes. See, the cost of evasion will become much higher than the cost of paying.
And as an investor also, you're saying it's a beneficiary move?
Absolutely. The more and more Indians come into the tax net, finally the more reasonable rates we can afford.
No, and tax to GDP needs to go up, sir. So that's rightly pointed out. One more angle to GST is that when the earlier form of GST came out, which was one tax, one nation. This is now we have about 4 slabs. The broad assumption was that it will push growth by 1.5 to even 2%, which will take us well comfortably beyond 8%, 8.5%, maybe even 9%. Now with this toned down version, or let's say work in progress version, the expectation is we'll do about 50, 60 basis points. So how do you look at the long-term growth trends, sir? And what would you say on that front?
See, let me not guess. Everybody's guessing, nobody knows.
Okay.
Right? There are some predictions go up by 8%, some predictions go up by 20 basis points. I think there will be gain, but I don't think the gains are going to be immediate.
Okay.
See, they're going to take time. See, the digitization itself will lead to such efficiencies. Movement of goods, exports, if there's better logistical movements. So, to quantify that gain today is difficult. And I think there are going to be as many intangible gains as there are going to be tangible gains. Right? So I personally feel India is poised for double-digit growth. GST is an 8 to it. Even without GST, would have reached there.
By when, sir? 10, 11%? By when?
No, my son was asking me, you have 5 crore rupees. I said, I'll give you 100 crores. He's also asking then.
They're still very young.
No, but I think if you ask my personal judgment, I think post 2019-20, we are poised for double-digit growth.
Yeah, you've always maintained that.
Yeah, but the only question is sometimes I feel, because I keep saying it and the time keeps passing. So sometimes I myself feel embarrassed repeating it. But I feel confident.
Which is why you should give nearer term targets, sir.
Target for what? Target for what?
Market, economy, growth, all of it.
When you go to a restaurant and have food, do you have a target for how good it is? It's
You should
good.
enjoy the ride.
Okay, enjoying the ride. I recall about a year and a half in your interaction with Nikunj, you had talked about and you had forewarned the markets about how the NPA mess is going to play out. And that's exactly played the way you predicted it to be. Is there any worry factor in the market right now? Because seems like the NPA situation is very well being tackled right now.
See, the tackling of the NPA, I think it's a journey, not a destination.
No.
And I think now I personally feel in the next 18 months, it will be tackled. Because what's going to happen once see, today a bank could not agree because officers were afraid, or who was to take the responsibility for the judgment. So now you'll have a court-approved process, right? And you'll have an independent authority who will make a scheme, right? And you will make it every equal, and outsiders may also be allowed to bid. So I think, and then this is going to have a very big demonstration effect. I think for all time to come, it will be very easy now. A businessman will understand that prolonging things with banks, and banks will understand that prolonging things with business is not going to help. Right? So it's going to lead to more responsible lending and borrowing.
And you're encouraged by the fact, sir, that this is perhaps the signal that the government, RBI, banks are giving out that enough with procrastination, let's get down to doing business.
I think, yeah, see, that feeling was there for the last 2 years, let's get down to business. But the question, how do we get down to business?
Yeah, true.
So I think this path that they have chosen, first of all, suppose they get the top, 30 accounts and you're 50% of the NPAs, right? It's a big substantial movement. And the moment 2-3 assets are resolved either by restructuring or by auction, right? And if you set fair and easy, fair terms, you'll have a lot of bidders, not only from India, from abroad coming up. So I think this process now is, जो 14 साल का बनवास था, I mean,
दिवाली मनाने का time आ गया है.
No, not Diwali, I think, but it will still take 18 to 24 months. And the benefits and the costs will vary from bank to bank.
And in that, I mean, would you say that private banking lot would be a winner, or would you stick by with the PSUs?
Private banking is already a winner. There are only two.
Not across the board.
Yeah, but I think the private sector banks are much better provided for. And see what happens, the public sector banks, their return on assets, even without the, credit cost is very low. The private sector banks are far more efficient.
That's there.
But would this change the cost of functioning for PSU banks? So because now they'll require more capital for the provisioning that they've done for putting these bad loans off their balance sheet. There's going to be a series of capitalization.
See, let's not guess without knowing any figures. Each bank's circumstances are different, right? Like a State Bank still earns 50-60,000 crores operating profit, pre-provision profit a year.
Yeah,
so even if State Bank has to provide, it may not need further capital. Some banks may need 3-4 raises times capital. So it will depend on bank to bank.
My only question is, sir, at some point in time, wouldn't there be value in PSU banks? I mean, at this juncture, as they go through this transition.
See, the only problem is that value is an adjective. And it means different things to different people. Right?
But if things are getting
there are
resolved
other
in 18
problems
months.
with PSU banks. See, their costs go up constantly. Their top management is short-lived. It's not very well motivated. The owner has no value for the equity, which is government of India. Right? So, and they will constantly need dilution. They become very slow in their. See, it's not only the bad NPA problem. I won't say it's with every bank, but it differs from banks. I mean, when I used to live to Pedder Road, there were 14 bank branches owned by a common owner.
Right on that road, yeah.
They need consolidation. Why should we have more than 3-4 public sector or more than 3 public sector banks? So all this, but that will also happen in my opinion.
What about the quasi-PSU banks, sir? Like, an ICICI, Axis Bank, they have not done as well as, the HDFC, Kotak banks.
But they're not quasi-PSU.
Quasi in the sense that they are also tainted because of the bad loan situation on their books. And now they've resolved some of that.
But if you remove the credit costs, which are the past mistakes, they are efficiently done.
Exactly.
So you find comfort in the top cream private sector banks?
Let me not comment about.
I'm not asking for a stock name, sir. I'm just categorizing
in extension to Aisha's question, what I'm just trying to understand, sir, is because, okay, I can understand PSU is completely the bad
Let me say one thing. There are two aspects. One in banks. One is the NPA problem. One is how well they are earning without the NPA problem.
Exactly.
So the question is, which bank has the NPA problem but is very efficiently run? But there are banks which have an NPA problem and are not efficiently run.
Yeah.
So for them, the exit of the, I'm talking
So
long
in the
term.
first situation, sir, ICICI Bank, Axis Bank, at least is.
Why do we come to?
Okay.
You make a judgment. Sir.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's talk about aviation. It's at a very, very interesting juncture. Crude is somewhat after the aberration now on your side. And there is this growing pool of the Indian consumer who wants to fly low cost. I mean, airports have now become like bus stations. They remind me of ISBT in New Delhi. And also, now off late, we are seeing these private carriers vie for that big dream to buy into Air India and, fly high and all of that. You've been a keen observer of the aviation space. Do you think the likes of a SpiceJet, Interglobe, etc. have the balance sheet bandwidth to absorb and buy into an Air India? And would that be a concern factor for you?
We can't talk about Air India. कोई बोलता है कि मुझे लड़की की शादी करनी है, कब करनी है, कैसे करनी है, पहले बताएं क्या डेट हो गया.
But pocket देख के करनी चाहिए ना, is what I'm asking.
It's a 2-3 year process, let me tell you. And what's going to be most important is what kind of conditions the bank, what kind of change the government allows. say the government sells an asset, says you can't change this, you can't change this. So ma'am, it's a long drawn out process. This expression of interest, in my opinion, means nothing.
Okay.
It's uninvited. I'm going for an uninvited, unsolicited bid
Gate
to the
crasher.
government of India. What does it mean?
Yeah.
No, but if at all it actually comes to the drawing table and there is a negotiation and all
Ma'am,
of that,
first,
then?
they are first, see, when you don't want to do anything, set up a committee. So first they set up a committee under Mr. Jaitley. They are going to decide the modalities. Then they will set up a committee to give them information. Then they will set up a committee to give them further information.
Tab tak the
Then
stock
everything
will do
then-
whatever
then-
it has to
then-
do.
No, this is a 2-3 year process.
Yeah.
But I believe one thing, that capital is a very small factor in the ability to turn around a difficult asset or a depleted asset.
Yeah.
The ability to do it is of course capital is important, but capital can be found in the world. But more important is the ability to do it.
And you think the Indian carriers have the ability?
Absolutely,
They do.
absolutely.
Or a big conglomerate, sir, because Tata Sons, I believe, are also interested.
Everybody's interested. I'm also interested.
do you
Yeah, but I
think
should be able to give it.
But sir, to your mind, if you were to be the advisor on the government on this issue, what would you advise? Because there's a 50,000 crore debt on the books of
No, what
India.
I
How
would
do you
tell the
manage?
banks, what I would tell I would call 8-10 industry players and I would tell them what is the change you want us to allow you.
Okay.
You can fire labor, you can stop certain routes, whatever, right? You can terminate certain contracts for maintenance. What is it that you desire when you buy the airline? And then I will tell those people that you take no debt.
Okay.
You take the airline
That's
clean.
an important one. Okay.
Okay? And you tell me how much money you're giving me. And then I will deal with the debt separately.
And what would you advise the government to do with the debt? Because it's 50,000 crores, so it's a pressure on their
Whatever, suppose they get 25,000 crores paid immediately. Balance they were subsidizing 5,000 crores as it is.
Okay.
So subsidize that for 5 years, then it'll be over.
So the PMO is watching this interview. I'm sure they're going to take these
Why?
recommendations
These are
into
all-
note.
I'm not an expert here. What I feel, but I feel you should give the airlines 2 criteria. What is the kind of change you are going to allow? And second thing is, it has no debt, finished. Because
That's a very good
today
point.
the bank debt may be at, I'm a bidder, say I pay 25,000 crores, okay? I go to a bank, I'm a AAA bidder, I may get the money at 3%.
Yeah, true.
Why should I carry the legacy of the government debt?
But sir, from that perspective, I'm getting the sense that rather than an airline company, wouldn't it be better with the muscle power that a conglomerate takes over the business? Like you said, you would also call top 10 industry players and evaluate their potential.
Yeah, so therefore, see, everybody should be allowed to bid. They'll make a minimum criteria for bidding
Yeah,
also.
of course.
They'll have minimum net worth. And they may ask for some bank guarantee before you bid. So I will just bid and I'm successful, I'll say no, I don't want. They may not have both. So ma'am, it's still abhi to sagai bhi nahi hai, shaadi is far.
But sir, do you believe that the Tata Group, if you would want to comment on that they would be perhaps the right suitors
best
for
fit.
this?
I'm
the
not,
big fit?
how can I say that? How can
Whatever your
how can I
understanding.
say that the Tatas are better than Indigo and Indigo is better than Tatas or whatever?
Chalo, yeah.
I mean, on what basis I can say it? What experience I have about the airline industry?
Sure, fair point. Let's talk about pharmaceuticals. You've been a keen observer of this space. There have been now certain changes at the top level as the US FDA. Yet again, there's pricing pressure, there's unclarity. It's very selective, the moves in pharmaceuticals. Is the best behind us already about a year back, or do you think the best is now yet to come with now new changes happening in pharmaceuticals?
See ma'am, but everybody on the street knows about certain event that's priced in.
Yeah.
So pricing power, morning pricing power, evening pricing power. So it's all, I think that's priced in. Having said that, see the industry has a big dip, both in terms of earnings growth and in terms of stock prices. But I think some of the pessimism is not warranted.
Okay.
And I would think that some of the pharma stocks could be in the process of making it. Some must have made it, some are in the process of making it.
The bigger ones, the nifty names.
Non-nifty also, whatever.
Essentially, the ones in the niche businesses, you think they can stand out?
Yeah, they can, why not?
So, the thing over the last 18 months that, we don't talk about as much as we should is the rally in commodities, commodity stocks particularly. Maybe because it's not a fancy sector, new age sector, so, there's focus coming in on other spaces. But if somebody had bought stocks at the low in Feb 2016, they would have been sitting on a pile of cash right now, having invested in Tata Steel, Hindalco, Vedanta. Your thoughts on that?
So markets, I thought, congrats to them.
But what is your
if markets give you money where most unlikely places, silently when nobody is observing.
But you like
But
the
it's not
commodity
as
space?
silent and is not as unknown.
What will my like and dislike make a difference?
You have an opinion on commodities, sir?
You can't have an opinion on commodities in general. I think oil is not going to go over $50, $55. And I think not go below $40.
Okay.
And I think that 55, 60 could be a ceiling for I don't know how many years. But I think there's been a fundamental change in the oil market. In the sense, consumption will be inhibited because of renewable energy, because of electricity in cars. And another problem is all of these OPEC countries have so much of expenditure that if the price goes down, they have no choice but to produce.
Right, that's true.
No, but just getting back to the point that Tanveer was making on metals, is the best of the metals rally behind us, or do you think there is more steam to this move in metals?
I won't say that. I don't see any very big upside in metal prices.
Okay.
But I would say that even at these levels, some companies could be very profitable.
So,
And in Indian steel, they have given big protection. Actually, today steel has become, in China, steel is $450 HR.
Yeah.
In England, it's $550. In America, it's $650.
you're bullish
this,
on Indian
So
steel.
this protection is, the Indian steel is also $550, $560. So this protection is leading to big, steel market now is not a world market, it's a localized market.
Yeah. No, why I asked was, for instance, a Tata Steel. Now with Chandra at the helm of the Tata Group, there's renewed energy in the company and the entire group.
Well, I think that the energy was always there. Only now it may be.
I said renewed
Maybe
energy.
there may be a catalyst. Mr. Chandrasekhar is a very capable leader.
Yeah.
Right? And I am, and in everything I have said, I'm an interested party.
Okay.
I may have purchased in all the shares, sales in all the shares, so take everything with a pinch of salt.
Right.
Even Tata Steel, I think they have, in my opinion, this year they're having 2.5 million tons of fresh Indian capacity coming. And also I think they have repaired the European operations.
Yeah, that's a big trigger for them.
That they've been doing about 3-4 years.
Yeah.
But you think now Chandra will make sure that this process is streamlined and finally goes through?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The healthcare sector, we've spoken about pharma at large. And the reason I touch upon healthcare is at a time like this when...
Talk about pharma, no, what is between pharma and healthcare?
No, I know, but sir, like Fortis Healthcare, for example. Not even Fortis Healthcare. My theme to ask you essentially is about these debt-laden companies. There are a lot of companies in the market which are debt-laden and now they're deleveraging. And this is particularly from a retail investor point of view, sir. Because
I don't know how many debt.
Jayaprakash Associates is cleaning up its balance sheet. GMR is cleaning up its balance sheet. Fortis is trying to get out of them.
When companies go into such a downtrend, when they're overladen with debt and they default,
Yeah.
when things revive, if there are 100 companies like this, 8-10 surely give you a lottery. They will be 8-10 times the price. But the question is which ones?
Exactly, sir. So for a retail investor...
I'm myself trying to find out.
And
When I come to some conclusion, I'll call you. Okay?
But you know what happens?
No, but
retail
is it
investors
worth the while to even put in that energy and try and research whether these companies...
Sure, it's worth the while.
What happens is, sir, retail investors, right, they'll see a SpiceJet, they'll see an Ashok Leyland going from, 10
Or a
bucks to
JP
whatever.
Associates nowadays.
JP Associates,
Yeah.
which, just got the deal done. And and they look up to you. So for them, what would you advise them on how to approach
It's
these
not my
companies?
duty to advise the investor. This is a stock market, man. Let everybody, let them have their own. No, I can give advice on broad terms. I don't want to give on companies. And
Broadly as well, sir. What would, on
broadly,
these
you should examine every opportunity which comes.
Okay.
So where are those opportunities right now
I'm
in the
searching
market?
for them when I find them.
On the earnings side, sir, in the erstwhile uptick in the cycle, we had IT contributing to earnings, pharma contributing to earnings, and private banks largely. Now in this earnings lag, IT is missing a little bit. At least there's been a slowdown. Pharma has also stepped back a bit, but you're saying there are better days ahead. And private banks, of course, are doing their best. So where will the earnings revival come from, and what would that take the number to?
I don't do all that research. I don't research the. We do it independent, company-wise. I agree that these But financials are about 35-40% of the Nifty. I think ICICI and the two HDFCs themselves are 25%.
Yeah.
So I mean, earnings, see, if the things in the economy improve, earnings growth has to come. It can't be the earnings growth will not come. It will come from some of the FMG items, some of the consumption items.
You know, that takes me to liquor companies. Everyone had completely rubbished them. Now with an odd United Spirits, the Diageo takeover, prospects seem to be looking brighter. And you know, one would think ki highway ban, demonetization, everything would have an impact. The volume figure and the earnings have a completely different story to tell. Do you think that as a segment will continue to be robust?
Well, as a whiskey drinker, I can tell you whiskey drinking is going to be robust anyway. But see, there are so many things concerned. I think the highway ban already Punjab has overturned.
Yeah.
Most states will overturn.
Yeah.
Right? So that will go, demonetization will go. And I think things will normalize in the liquor industry. I'm not saying that you buy the stock or you don't buy the stock.
No, I'm not
I'm
even
only
asking
saying-
you that. Yeah.
And there was a very big concern about GST also,
Yeah.
which is largely nullified. So the negatives will surely be nullified, but whether you should buy the stocks or not, you take your own note.
So the dominant view in the markets is after this stellar rally, and I know you've been asked this question many times, that the valuation is looking stretched. You know, markets are pushing to the upper end of the
The
valuation
skeptics
range.
are still there.
And that view is getting louder. What would you say?
See, what I would say is that I don't feel market will go down.
Okay.
Even if it goes down, it won't go down more than 3-4% from these levels.
Okay.
Second thing I feel is that we may be sitting upon some big spurt in earnings. I don't know whether we'll have it or not.
Okay.
Third is the investor. See, I would say we are very well poised for good performance. If the performance doesn't come through, then there will be trouble. Having said that, see, value. Who says what is fair value and what is overvaluation and what is undervaluation? The fact, I think, is that the valuation we have today is a product of the fact that the international markets are bullish. There is a lot of local liquidity, right? And third is there a lot of expectation that India will do well. So the fundamental fact, see, markets never discount the present. They always try and discount the future. Right? So the feeling in the people is that in future India will do very well. Is doing well and will do better. Second thing also is that, you know, technically there is so much of local liquidity. And because of the situation of interest rates and liquidity worldwide, a lot of foreign money is also coming. And macro-wise, India has never had it so good. Value of the currency, interest rates, fiscal deficit. So I'm seeing the screen, you know, when the markets are like women don't have opinions, have reality. Seeing the screen, I feel markets are not going to go down more than 2-3-4%.
That's very reassuring.
That's
sir.
yeah. You know, I remember his price target of 1 lakh on the index for 2030. In the more near term, if you had to predict and give us a price level, now that you're saying कि नीचे नहीं जाएगा, ऊपर कितना जाएगा?
Same as like, you know, restaurant, I know it's going to, food is going to be good. कितना अच्छा होगा किसको मालूम?
नहीं, बहुत अच्छा हो सकता है किसी
हाँ,
रेस्टोरेंट में.
बहुत अच्छा.
So what is the बहुत अच्छा case
थोड़ा
scenario?
अच्छा भी हो सकता है.
So थोड़ा अच्छा होगा.
Ma'am, we don't know price targets. I mean, see, price targets are all products of, are I think all crap. Right? When nobody knows it. See, you got to follow a trend. Where the trend will end, right? Nobody knows. So the trend will show its ending by price performance.
Yeah.
But will we get back to 10,000 first or maybe an 8,500 first?
I would say 10,000 first.
10,000, yeah, that's about 300.
That's not the target I'm saying.
No,
Is it
it's a
10,000
directional move.
I mean, today we are around 9,500.
Right.
So I think 1,000
500
point,
point.
we won't have a 500 point rise before 1,000 point fall.
Absolutely.
It means it could go to 9,100, tomorrow it could go to 9,000.
Yeah.
And you know, last couple of questions, sir, and then we'll wrap up. The thing is that India is positioned at a very interesting point right now. Do you think that we are at an inflection point, so to speak, because these are the boldest reforms we've seen? Yes, there's been some delays. I take all your concerns on board, but whether it's bankruptcy code, whether it's GST, whether it's demonetization, this is perhaps the first time that you're seeing that much commitment towards resolving the bad loan problem, bringing down debt, deleveraging, putting a system in place. You know, if you were to look, and so you you have so many decades of experience looking at India. Looking at the crystal ball, how do you see all this coming together for India's future?
Ma'am, what we are doing today is going to have effect even 30 years later.
Yeah.
The effects of liberalization of 91 are still efficient today. If I was consuming aluminum in India, in 91 I was paying 150% higher than the international price. Today I'm paying 5% higher. So this insolvency law, it will allow far more borrowing and far more lending, right? The GST will allow a lot of logical gain, less tax evasion. So all that, see, India, there is no one inflection point, right? The ultimate inflection point, I know it will come when, but the inflection point will take us to 8, it will take us to 9, it will take us to 10, and we are coming into the inflection point of the 10%. My prediction is post 2020, 2020, 21, 21, 22, we are going to get it.
Okay.
You know, that also takes me to the next point, that we've had the Prime Minister and the current ruling party at the helm of these mega life-altering reforms and moves that we've seen in the past. How critical is it that 2 years from now the same government comes into the power for the health of the equity markets and the economy per se? And if that were not to happen, if at all, if there's a remote chance, would that be detrimental?
So we'll think of it when the chance is there. Why contemplate?
So you said markets work with the future, it's only 2 years.
Why contemplate, right?
Yeah.
So
You have to measure your pros and cons.
I think what she's trying to ask is also,
So-
do you
so
think
but-
politics can spoil the party?
I don't think so.
No?
Because I don't think the chance of, I think the Janata Dal United of Mr. Nitish Kumar is going to join the the NDA, and then the opposition cannot be united. And in absence of that, I don't see them and I don't see that the government is creating or doing any blunder by which there are some scandals or there are some by which they could be removed from power. And I think Modi ji himself as a person, it's Modi ji who's leading electing, not the BJP.
That's why I'm saying
So
that,
to
you know,
him
how
as-
critical is it that he continues as the PM for the next term also?
Why not? He will continue. If he cannot continue, then we'll think about it.
Okay.
Cross the bridge when
Cross
we get
the
there.
bridge when it comes. So you gave a target of 1 lakh on the Nifty by 2030 a few years back. And you're saying right now that the inflection point will come after 2020. What kind of, and I'm not, okay, so that's your benchmark and we're going with that. But what kind of India do you envision? Because at the end of the day, these market levels just reflect India at different points in time. Whether it's a per capita income, our lifestyles, what kind of India do you envision by 2030 when the Nifty is at that mark?
I think by 2030 we'll be one of the world's largest consumer markets. And see, we will break those thresholds of 1500, 1600 GDP per person, per capita. We go to some 2500, 2800. So consumption will get a big spur. India will militarily and strategically be a much bigger power. I hope our Human Development Index, which is very important, will be much better. Less infant mortality, right? More education, more healthcare for our people. So I think, see, according to me, the only way to removing poverty is growth. And I think, India will be a space power, right? So I think, and India has reached, I don't know, I may not live to see the real glorious India, right? But I will predict that.
What are you saying?
Really? Ma'am, after you're 50, you realize you're mortal, right?
Okay.
And maybe the guy who smokes 20 cigarettes, has 4 bags of whiskey a day, eats like a pig, he's more conscious.
Long live consumption, I say. Okay. No, so by 2030, if we do get to 1 lakh, and I'm sure you'll be hale and hearty and healthy by then, does Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, the investor, ever think that if we do so well, I will be in all cash? Does it ever occur to you?
I will be in all cash one day.
Yeah?
But I
No,
don't know
one
that.
day, yes. When?
Who knows today? You in the markets, you can't plan. This is not planning commission, right? This is not your daughter's homework that you're going to plan out how
It's
she'll-
non-existent in the planning commission now, by the way.
But this is not, see, markets, I told you, markets are like women, you don't know how they'll react, when they will react, right? So you have to wait. See, I can predict an event. I can't predict the time periods.
But, so I think what we're trying to understand is what are your ideas about cash? For a person who's always invested in equities,
Well, I feel between 2021 and 2025-26, a Ashad Mehta type madness will come.
Really? Why?
Because, ma'am, this is daru. Sab daru ka nafa hai. Sab nafe ka daru hai. So when people make more profit, they bet more, they get mad. They get mad, they put more money, they earn more, they get mad. But that cycle will end someday. So it's going to happen. Right? And what's wrong in being in cash here?
No,
In fact,
not
I
at
think
all. You should enjoy your money.
I'm enjoying my money as it is.
No, just because, sir, when somebody looks up to you, they always see that, oh, Mr. Jhunjhunwala has made so much money in the stock markets. He's always been an investor, has not really believed in real estate.
And a trader.
And a trader. So for them, for somebody who's typically not been very big on cash, going on cash after a certain point in time, one would want to know your mindset.
No, but if I feel assets, see, I have no emotion for any stocks. I have emotions on my wife, my girlfriend, my children, my daughter, my mistress, my friends. I have no emotion for stocks.
You're missing out your sons.
So
They feel very offended.
So if stocks are maddeningly overvalued,
Okay.
right, then boy, we are not. I mean, cash may be better than equity.
But you'll take a look at that only after 2020.
I don't know when. I mean, madness may come next year.
Arey, sir,
Whenever
abhi
it comes,
to this is a roaring
whenever
time.
the madness. See, I feel the wheels have started for that journey.
Oh, okay.
Right? That India is growing, there is optimism, the local money has started coming. Right? So it's going to be a combination of superlative economic performance and pouring of liquidity.
Would that mean that after 2020, India would be a bubble, sir?
No.
No? You don't
See,
see that?
India will never be a bubble. The stock market at some valuation maybe. At some valuation. You got to...
What is that valuation number in your mind?
Who knows? We cannot... See, this is all behavioral science. We can't predict it.
Absolutely.
By seeing the feeling in the street, the newspapers, talking to people, but we can know about the present.
So right now that feeling is completely amiss, that frenzy stage, or do you think this is the beginning of
We
it?
are far, this is just the beginning. अभी तो गाड़ी स्टेशन से छोटी है, स्पीड भी नहीं आई है. Bombay Central से दादर.
So we do have time.
We have lots of.
Right now, we should just, for our viewers out there, sir, your messages, we should just sit back and enjoy and participate in this good phase.
Sit back, enjoy, participation is their decision.
Okay.
Okay. So now tell me, it's Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, the Bollywood producer also. You're a big bulky fan, English, Amita. What's next? What's the next one venture?
I'm waiting for Balki to write his next film.
Okay.
Mom
so it's
is
only
coming.
movies? There's
Mom is-
anything else?
No,
No, mom is
is
not
there.
bulky.
No, I think he's directing some movie,
Yeah.
which is being produced by someone else. But I think the next movie we'll produce together.
So it'll be only bulky.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anything other interesting thing that you're doing apart from investing in movies?
Leading a very relaxed life, trading a little less, coming to the office at 12:30, going back at 6:30, taking it easy in life.
So before we wrap up, Winston Churchill says, we make a living by what we get, we make a life by what we give.
Right.
Mr. Jhunjhunwala is giving.
I am giving at the moment, and I have plans to give much more. Let us see how much God allows me to give.
But that's the way forward for you.
Yeah, surely. Because I have no business, I have no company to control, I have no singular business in which I have ownership. And I don't want my children to do what I want them to do. I want them to do what they enjoy. And enjoyment for them may not necessarily be the earning of wealth.
Are any of them wanting to ape the father and follow in his footsteps?
Too small, my sons are 9, my daughter is 13. But my younger son is very much like me.
Okay. Well, so on that note, we wish you the very best to you, your family. You know, it's just, again, from Aisha and myself and the entire team that's out here. Thank you so very much for taking out the time.
It's such a pleasure speaking with you always.
This has been a special day for us, and you being part of our
Thank you
programming
for
means a
inviting
lot.
me. And once again, I tell you, don't worry, nothing's going to go wrong in GST.
Of course not.
Okay, great.
And we must congratulate the government for having got it.
You want to give that message to the viewers, sir, that not to worry, this is a good time? Okay.
Give them a message.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
thank you so
very
much.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/ETNow.